if your dream doesn't scare you, then you're not living your life. And I said, God, please give me some encouragement. Please give me something. Give me something little, like the smallest thing ever, that I just know that you hear me right now. Boom, there was a red light in my face. I thought that's how every customer so far has found me, but it's still a mystery to myself how that works. It must be God coordinating everything for me. It's not possible. I burst out in tears and I said, God, that must be you. Like, if that's you, the car will start. The car will start. The car will start. And I walked over to the car. I opened the car.
I'm here with an incredibly gifted inventor, Andy Schmidt. He's a husband, a father, a follower of Jesus, and he's the owner of Schmidt Customs. He's also an author of his book called From Thought to Thing. He coaches entrepreneurs on how to transform ideas into reality. Thank you so much for allowing me the privilege of interviewing you, because you have a wild story of how you get divinely inspired ideas and wisdom for inventions and complicated equipment and machinery. So you have a gift for understanding how these things work.
Yes, I do.
Perfect. Are you getting feedback at all, Andy? Are you okay?
Feedback?
Like on your end of the speaker?
No.
It sounds okay. Okay, perfect. No, that's perfect.
Okay, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I want to get right into it here. Can you tell me about the time someone reached out to you about a machine that had stopped working? Was that the same company that was going to fly someone in from overseas?
Yes, I was invited or asked to help. A machine broke down in metal manufacturing and they couldn't get it going again. They had customers waiting on their orders to be fulfilled, but they tried everyone locally to see if they could fix the machine, but they couldn't. So they reached out even all the way to Alabama to the distributor of the machine to get it going, and they couldn't help either. So they had to fly somebody in from Europe to get it fixed, which would be very expensive. So they asked me if I could step in and observe if I could see what the problem would be. And they're willing to pay me for quite some time to just look at it and find the problem. So what I did is I prayed for that machine. I prayed for the problem, and God gave me the wisdom to find the problem. At the end, everybody had just overlooked one little thing. They all saw the pictures of the clutch, but one disc was too many like only one disc was too many in there, and they had to take it out. And that made the machine work.
That's incredible. So they had experts. They were bringing in different people to look at this. People couldn't figure it out. This is reminding me of different stories in the Bible where kings had brought, people in to interpret dreams or to figure something out. But so then you came in, you prayed, and how long did it take you to figure it out?
It was just 4 hours. It was quick.
4 hours. Okay. And so what did they say? Were they, where in the world did this guy come from? Like, where has he been? Were they surprised?
Yes, they were, but I got recommended through some other people that I did work for them already, so that's how they found.
Okay. And that reminds me about the story of Joseph when someone was in prison and he needed someone to interpret his dream. And so that's just like your name came up. That's really, really cool. Was there a time that you built something and you just knew like that had to have been God? Like that wasn't me. Like that had to have been God giving me like wisdom and inspiration?
Yes, there was. I once was invited to build a fan that would uplift the product, and the fan had to be so strong because it was a massive amount of product that needed to be lifted, and it needed to look like boiling water. It needed to bubble. So I needed to find out how much airflow do I need to make this machine work the way it's supposed to be. And I invented a fan. The fan blade itself is almost the weight of a car, and it had to turn fast, and it has to be powerful. And I needed to calculate all those numbers, and I couldn't do it myself. I know that God stepped in, and He helped me because I prayed for it. He helped me that I could calculate those numbers. Later on, it was tested and confirmed that my numbers were correct. and the machine is working since, and the customers are happy with it.
That is so encouraging to hear, that we can go to God and ask for help and ask for inspiration. He's not a faraway God. And even something like that, of course, God would know the answer. He's the creator of the universe, the Alpha and Omega. So that is really encouraging to hear. Can you tell me about the time, like you built a really impressive big machine? What was the story about the biggest machine you built?
Yeah, the biggest, with the most amount of parts, was a drying machine. I don't want to go too far into details, but I had over 12,000, I think it was 12,800 parts. And when you look at something that big, or if you know something will be that big, it looks intimidating at first. But when you do piece by piece, you just design the parts, and then on the end, it all comes together. And like every one of us can achieve something big if you just start. You just have to start with the first part, and you will make it.
That's incredible. So how did you discover that you had this gift?
I discovered it in 2009. I went to a metal shop, and I needed some pieces of metal so I can manufacture something small for myself at home. And I went to that manufacturing, and I saw there was the owner himself. He was struggling. He was trying to uh, achieve, like he was trying to build a trailer, not just a normal trailer for a semi truck. It was a trailer that the frame itself would bend up, and he had to find out the geometry, how to make this all work. He asked me if I could step, like I told him, I worked on this program before, and I could help him quickly if he wants my help. And he said, yes, please do. So all I did is I fixed his geometry because he was off a little bit, and he had a couple pivot points missing, so I just fixed his geometry. Within half an hour, he was good to go, and I solved his problem. That's how I discovered that I have a gift that not everybody has, which I thought, like, it's normal to me, but some other people, they told me, man, I couldn't do what you do, and that's how I discovered, man, I have a gift.
Absolutely. Were you always into like inventing and creating when you were younger?
Yes, my first invention was a little bicycle. I had a bigger tire in the back and I had a small tire in the front. I just installed a small one. It looked cool, I thought, and it was inspired by the muscle cars from the United States. And I thought that was so cool, but I fell. I tore up my face. I was bleeding. That was my first invention, but it was fun.
Absolutely. And that's, a good way to learn is just to go at it and just to start, right? Um, so at that point, like at what point did Jesus enter your story?
Yeah, I grew up religious, and but I never thought that I want anything to do with religion. So my dad passed away at a young age, and I went for a walk, and I said, if there really is a God, why would he take my dad away? If there really is a God, why would I have so many problems? If there really was, and I did it again. I went for a walk, and I just thought, God, if you are there, you need to help me, and you need to tell me why I have so many problems, why is so much going wrong in my life. And yeah, he showed up, and he talked to me, and he said, I will replace what is missing, and I will help you and guide you.
Wow, that's incredible. So you're an adult at this point, or you said when you were young,
No, that's about 4 years ago. It's
4 years ago.
quite
Okay.
recent.
Okay. Oh my goodness. And so you got plugged into a church and you started to get discipled, and the rest is history?
Yep,
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So, and you're from Germany originally.
that's correct. Yes,
Okay. And so when did you come to Canada?
in 2008.
2008. Okay. And now you have a really cool story about, if you can remind me, I don't know if you had a prophetic word or someone had been praying for you, and then they said they saw angels.
Yeah, they they prayed for me and they saw that I guess we are all surrounded by angels, and my angels, they help me in the wisdom that I need for solutions, for product development, and for for my daily needs. Because what I do, that's not me. That's definitely not me. Because some days I'm just looking back at what I did and I think about how did I find a solution. It's definitely not me.
Absolutely. So what is your process like when I know you do contracts for people, but you also invent your own things. What does your process look like when you approach a problem or when somebody approaches you to fix something or you have a problem to solve or when you start inventing something like what does that process look like? Are you kind of always in this space of I have ideas and understand how things work, or how does that start?
My day starts with a daily prayer. After that, I go for a prayer walk, which I found out later that's a prayer walk when you go and pray. So I start very calmly, and then the phone calls start coming in, and they would just describe the problem for me. For example, just recently, a family member called me and told me that the car broke down, and I'm like, sorry, I'm 2 hours away. I can't just come and help you right now. And then she told me about all the problems that she had, and I knew right away she just needs a jumper cable or a battery. So if you're in daily prayer and if you ask the Holy Spirit to help you, He will just guide you. He will just tell you what the problem is. And sure enough, somebody else could come to help her, and they just needed a jumper cable to jump the battery, and she could keep going. Um,
That's
Later on, she found out that the battery was corroded, and that's what I told her right away. And then they just had to clean the corrosion of the cable and put it back on. And that's just a simple way that a lot of people can relate to, but that's the same for big things. If you walk in obedience to God, you will just notice that uh, God will just give you the solutions if you ask Him.
wow. That's that's a bar. That's a t-shirt idea right there. I'm curious because you don't do a lot of, promotion of yourself. And how are people finding you? Like, what are the stories of, I heard this name Andy Schmidt, and he's the guy to go to if you need somebody to solve a problem. Like, how are people finding you?
That's a surprise to myself too. I still don't know the answer to this day. Um, but that's true. People, if they have a problem, if they're really looking for someone, they talk to other people, and the name Andy Schmidt comes up, and that's how every customer so far has found me. But it's still a mystery to myself how that works. It must be God uh, coordinating everything for me.
I heard someone, I can't remember if it was a prayer or it could have been a podcast I was watching, but they were saying like God will speak your name in rooms that you're not in.
Wow.
So it's like we don't have to strive, we don't have to self promote. Like God can bring us opportunities and bring us to places that, we didn't even know there was an opportunity for. So I was really curious about that part of your story. Because it's unusual, right? Like
Yeah.
not everybody has people that know their name and associate them, with the thing that you do. So that's amazing. You have a phrase in your book, and in your book you say that the biggest barrier isn't skill or money, and it's not even connections, but what would you say to people who are stuck in the preparation, that haven't taken the first step? Because I can think of a lot of people who are maybe scared, they think their dream is too big, or they have something in their spirit that they feel called to create and build. And I think we were created to create, but they think it's too big for them, or they're scared, or they're don't want to take the risk. Like, what encouragement or what advice would you give to someone who's stuck in the preparation? Like, when I am the person, when I have all the skills, then I'm going to do the thing.
Yeah, if your dream doesn't scare you, then you're not living your life. Um, as a Christian, we have always the Holy Spirit helping us. So it's not us doing it. Like I was standing in front of challenges where I said, yes, I can help you. And I had no idea how to solve it, but I was just trusting God that He would help me. Uh, I would say most of the time it's just you doing the first step and God will do the rest.
Absolutely. I agree. It's taking that first step of faith, taking that action, trusting God to show up, and then expecting Him to show up, when you take that step. Because I feel like so many people are stuck in a state where they're just constantly preparing, constantly preparing. When I am good enough, then I'll start the business. When I have all the knowledge, then I'll start the business. But that's really not what faith is, because that's faith in our own ability to do it. But you're saying just take a step forward and God's going to meet you.
That's right.
That's so cool. Um, there's another quote in your book, and I think this resonates or will resonate with a lot of people. You say, don't wait for confidence, earn it by doing. So can you break that down a little bit, Andy? Like, in your experience, like, has that been your experience?
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. Um, let's say if you look at the engine of a car, if you look at it and you know there's one part in it broken, if you just open the hood and you say, okay, then you would just say, I cannot fix it because it looks very complicated. But if you take out one part at a time, you make pictures, you take the bolts out, you mark them, you put them in Ziplocs, you mark it, you take it all apart. Yes, there is some parts that not everybody can touch, but sometimes it's just something little and you just have to start. You just take it apart and you put it exactly the way you took it apart, you put it back together, and you realize you can accomplish a lot more than when you just look at it and decide, am I capable of doing it or not?
That's really, really cool. And I like how you explained, confidence comes as you take action, if that sums it up correctly. Like, and as you get reps in, like the more you do it, the confidence will build. Is that kind of
Yes, that's
track with
right.
what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, do you have any encouragement or advice for inventors or even just creators or anyone who has a desire to build something? Maybe it's an invention, maybe it's a machine, or maybe it's a business idea. Like, do you have any advice or encouragement for someone like that?
Just start. Just start. Everything else will fall in place. A
Absolutely.
business is never a smooth straight path. It's always up and downs. Um, Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's easy, but you will always, at the end of the day, you will always make it. Some days will be hard, some will be easy, but nothing is guaranteed. But sometimes I heard of people, they start one business and it didn't go well, and then they start the second one, and that one does great. So don't quit when you just started something and it didn't go well. Sometimes you have to keep working at it. Sometimes you just have to, yeah. My best
So,
advice is ask God, and He will always guide you. But it's like a
absolutely.
ship. You have to pedal into the ocean, but God is the rudder. He will steer you. So if you do nothing, you will get nowhere. But if you start and if you try, you will make a way. And there will always be somebody that can help you. And the Holy Spirit is the best helper, anyways. So
Absolutely. That's really good. That's really good advice because I feel like for so many people, the um, outcome or the idea seems too big for them. And so it stifles them from moving forward. But when you put it like that, like we're connected, to the creator of all things, he's going to give us the wisdom, he's going to guide us through. So I think that's really, really a good encouragement for someone. So Andy, for someone who is maybe sitting on the fence, or for someone who isn't sure if God will speak to them, or if God will even show up, like what encouragement would you have for that person?
just try. I want to tell you how my first time went. It was October, and I like old cars from the 90s, and I have an old classic car, and I wanted to park it in a different spot. So I went outside, I tried to start it, and I noticed the battery is dead. So I left the car there over winter. It got snowed in a little bit. Here comes February, and I was talking to God in my living room, and I said, God, please give me some encouragement. Please give me something. Give me something little, like the smallest thing ever, that I just know that you hear me right now. I went over to the kitchen. I looked out the kitchen window, and boom, there was a red light in my face. I thought, whoa, what was that? A red light again. I thought, where's that coming from? So I looked the direction that I thought it came from. I looked to the car, and sure enough, that red alarm light, it came on. And I'm like, no. In October, I parked the car, and it had a dead battery. It's not possible. I burst out in tears, and I said, God, that must be you. Like, if that's you, the car will start. The car will start. The car will start. And I walked over to the car. I opened the car, and sure enough, it fired up. The battery lasted another 10 months, and then it broke. It was frozen, it was bulged from the frost, but it did start. So I just encourage you, try it out.
Wow, that gave me shivers. And it that I don't think I breathed the whole time you're telling that story. And it reminded me of something that happened just the other day. It was 1 or 2 days ago, and my husband was in prayer, and I hear him calling to me from upstairs. And so I go upstairs, and he says, "Don't be freaked out." I'm like, that's not a good start. I'm freaked out already. And he calls me over, and he says, "Don't be freaked out. I was praying and asking God, and I don't know if he asked for a sign, but I went to the room, and I have this. It's called it's like for doing makeup. It has lights all around a mirror, and it has different settings for different types of light. And this mirror was flashing, or the lights were flashing, like it kept like flashing, flashing, flashing. And my husband recorded it, and he looked it up in ChatGPT, and the sequence in which the lights were flashing was Morse code for the number 55. And hold on, I have to ask my husband, Toby, what does 55 represent? He has his headphones on. So yeah, he looked it up, and it was Morse code. And 55 represents a change, a shift, that a big change is coming. And okay, what else did he say here? It represents transformation, change, freedom, a movement of adventure. It represents God's biblical meaning is God's grace, goodness, and God's favor. Doubling it, 55 represents abundant grace, grace multiplied. Psalm 55 talks about trusting God in distress. And that was so relevant to what we're experiencing right now. But the crazy thing is, these flashing lights that's not a setting on this mirror. It's not a setting for the lights. It doesn't do that, and it hasn't done it since. But it was flashing this Morse code of this number 55.
Wow, this is just amazing how God can use anything to talk to you.
Absolutely. And just confirmation that the Bible says when we cry out to God, seek and you will find, ask and so God meets us. Doesn't matter where we're at in life. Doesn't matter if we don't believe that he will answer. If we cry out to God, he will show up and he will encounter us where we're at. And I think that's just a really cool confirmation. Anything else, Andy, that you can think of that you wanted to share?
I don't know.
No, that's all good. And when we do this in person, we can think of more things again. But so if people want to reach out to you for a service, for your services, or an invention, they need a machine that needs to be fixed, or even if they just want to follow along with your journey and connect with you, how can people find you?
I'm on Instagram at Inventive Andy. So Inventive Andy. My personal website is schmidtandy.com, and my business website is schmidcustoms.com.
Perfect. Andy, it's incredible. It's encouraging how God has just shown up in your story and really done the impossible and has really worked in your journey. So I appreciate you taking the time to share that with me.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.